list ranking every single team since the offseason, so I feel like this is a perfect time to update my current NBA landscape with the tier list. So we're going to allocate these 30 teams into 5 tiers. See you in June, which means I believe you're going to be in the NBA Finals, or at least you have a good chance at making it. Conference Finals ain't too bad, so potentially finishing a runner-up to making the NBA Finals. Playoffs tier, kind of a boring tier, but I do think you're going to make the playoffs, but don't have a great chance at making it to the conference finals. Get ready to learn play-in tournament, buddy, because, yeah, I think you're going to finish around the 7th to the 10th seed or be competing for the play-in tournament all year long and then capture the flag tier, which means I think you're going to be trying to end up with the top pick in the NBA draft to select Cooper Flag. And like always, if you agree or disagree with any of my selections, let me know in the comments where you think your favorite team should be. So we're going to start off with the Atlanta Hawks, who don't own their first round pick this season, so they have no incentive to tank. They do own the Lakers first round pick. They do own the Kings first round pick outside the lottery, but I don't think that the Kings are going to be capturing the flag. They have not been a good defensive team this year. They are ranked out as one of the worst defensive teams, but they're trying to figure out this offense going forward, seeing how Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, and Zachary Sachet all look around Trae Young. And Sachet has been inconsistent so far, but that game against the Knicks showed real encouragement of what he could be as a complementary player to Trae Young. Trae's efficiency needs to be a little bit better because I think their offense could end up as a top 15 offense. But this team, I don't think makes the playoffs. I don't think they've changed too much from my preseason expectations for them. They're going to be in a lot of fun games because they can score. They can't really defend right now as a team as a whole, and they don't own their first round pick. So I think they're not going to try to capture the flag. The Boston Celtics, yeah, I'll see you in June. They had a statement game on opening night in their ring ceremony game against the New York Knicks, blow them out, and they've been the best three-point shooting team in the league all year long. They're not going to get Kristaps back, but they're playing very well without KP. They're a top 10 defense. They're a top 5 offense. I don't even think Jaylen Brown has been playing up to his standards this year, and you're getting 6 man of the year caliber play out of Peyton Pritchard. Al Horford has been giving them good minutes at his age as well. I think the Celtics are still the clear favorite out of the Eastern Conference, so I'll see them in June. The Charlotte Hornets, I also think, are going to get ready to learn play-in tournament. I don't think that they're going to be capturing the flag right now. Maybe if there's an injury to LaMelo Ball, and I know he's been banged up, but if Brandon Miller suffers a more serious injury, then maybe I would drop them down a tier. But they're going to be fun as a team offensively this year. LaMelo Ball has been incredible. Brandon Miller had a fun game winner against the Detroit Pistons. Their center depth has been a little disappointing. Mark Williams because of injury. Nick Richards played well when he was healthy, but is also hurt right now. Miles Bridges has been bad. Trey Mann's been fun. I think we're going to see a lot of good offensive games from this Hornets team, but not a lot of good defensive games. Maybe if they end up moving off from some of their veterans at the deadline, I'd drop them down a tier. But the Eastern Conference right now is wide open, especially with Milwaukee playing bad, New York trying to figure out their identity. Philadelphia has been banged up so far. So I think there's a chance the Hornets could be a playoff team, but I think they're going to be most likely a play-in tournament team at the end of the season. The Bulls have actually been somewhat of a better defensive team than I would have thought. Now, they haven't been great overall, but Vucevic is trying to get up that trade value. Same with Zach LaVine. Guys like Ayo Dosunmu and Patrick Williams have been somewhat disappointing, but Kobe White is carrying over that momentum from last year. Josh Giddey has looked good as a shooter. I think they're also going to be ready to learn play-in tournament, buddy. But I do think when I update this tier list later in the year, they're going to be capturing the flag, because if their pick is not in the top 10, it goes to San Antonio from the DeMar DeRozan sign and trade when they picked him up a couple off seasons ago. So the worst possible scenario for Chicago is to like be the 10th seed, make the play-in tournament, and then your pick is number 11 in the draft, and that goes to San Antonio. That is the worst case scenario for them. I think they're going to realize that over the course of this year. We're going to see a lot of Modest in the second half, and then hopefully for them, they're able to move off of LaVine and Vucevic towards the end of the season. Next up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently undefeated at the moment I'm recording this. Now, I want to put them in See You in June, but I think for now, I'm just going to put 2 teams in there. So conference finals ain't too bad. By record wise, they are the best team in the NBA this year. They've been a top 10 defense. They've also been the best offense. Shout out to Kenny Atkinson turning this team around. Evan Mobley looks like he's taking a step as a player. Darius Garland is bouncing back. Their bench has been great, and this is all without Max Strus as well. And I think Donovan Mitchell has been pretty normal this year. Not up to his standards, but he's still been great overall. But I think we're going to get another tier of Donovan Mitchell when he elevates his play over the course of the year. But everything is gelling right now for Cleveland, and they've been the most surprising team in a good way. Most people preseason thought that they were going to be in that Pacers, Magic, second tier Eastern Conference group, but right now they're playing like the second best team in the East, right behind Boston. And records wise, they are better than Boston, but when Boston is healthy in the playoffs, I would still take them over Cleveland. But conference finals for the Cavs, with everything talking about the preseason, this is unreal. And the start they've had has been phenomenal. They've been some really good teams, and they are one of the more fun teams to watch in the NBA right now. For Dallas, I also believe that they're going to be on track to make it to the conference finals once again, because their offense hasn't been living up to their potential. Quentin Grimes has been inefficient. Same with Jaden Hardy. I feel like Luka Doncic also has been inefficient to start off the year. Same with PJ Washington. And their defense has looked very good to start off the year, which is very encouraging because I think the offense is going to come around. I think the big thing with Dallas was going to be their defense. Their offense is going to get better. And by the end of the year, I believe they're going to be a top 10 defense and a top 5 offense. And they made it to the NBA Finals last year. I think they got better in the offseason. So I think they're going to make it to the conference finals once again. Now for Denver, I'm just going to put them in the playoff tier right now. I don't have the most confidence that they're going to make it to the conference finals for the first time since 2023. Jamal Murray has looked kind of weird to start off the year. We saw him kind of play disappointing play last year in the playoffs in round number 2. He did not play well for Team Canada in the Olympics. Michael Porter Jr. has been off to a weird start. Aaron Gordon's already hurt. They're relying a ton on Christian Brown in year number 3 and Russell Westbrook at his age. Nikola Jokic is playing like the MVP. He's putting up better numbers than he's ever done before. He has been unreal, but I don't know how much he's going to be able to carry this team in the playoffs when you need 6, 7, 8 guys deep. And they just don't have that right now. Maybe Peyton Watson or Julian Strawther takes a step over the course of this year. But right now, I like Dallas a little bit more than Denver. If I do throw 2 more teams, or at least another Western Conference team into this tier at the end of this, I will most likely move Denver up. But I'm not even sure about that right now because there are some other Western Conference teams that I really like. I think JB Bickerstaff has done a great job with the Detroit Pistons this year. I think we're going to figure out the true identities of these play-in tournament teams right now. Detroit has been a great defensive team, but they're struggling offensively outside of Cade Cunningham and a little bit of Jaden Ivey. They did have a tough schedule to start off the year, but those games like they lost on a game winner to the Charlotte Hornets is a game they need to win. And I'd like to see Cade Cunningham win them games. I already think he's a phenomenal player. I hold Cade to a very high standard. And if you watched my videos, you know that. So I would like to see him elevate into a new tier this year, but he's been off to a good start offensively. But let's try to see if he can carry this offense throughout the course of the season. I'm trying to think which team I would drop to capture the flag at the end of this. I think it's eventually going to be Chicago when they trade their veterans, because Chicago is the only team that has a protected first round pick outright that's realistic on not getting it back to them. Because Detroit's going to get their first round pick, Charlotte's going to get their first round pick, Atlanta's not going to get their first round pick, so they don't have an incentive to tank for Cooper Flag whatsoever. So maybe Chicago that I drop, maybe we'll drop a team later on in this. So next up we have Golden State. Man, what a crazy turnaround it's been throughout the first 3 weeks of the season. Now they've had an easy schedule to start off the year, but they just beat Boston in Boston, which was a great win for them. They've won a couple games without Steph Curry. Their depth is looking like it's a big strength to this team, which was something I was harping on in the offseason, that I thought this was the deepest Warriors team since the 2022 season. I'm debating where I want to put them right now. I don't know if they're better than Denver, if they're better than some other teams. I think I could jump them up a tier at the end of this. So we're going to just throw them in playoff tier for now, because come playoff time, I do wonder if they're going to still be a top 3 team in the Western Conference. They have a gauntlet of a schedule coming up. So this is going to be a real test to see how for real Golden State is going to be. And this is with Brandon Bojemski not shooting the ball well, Jonathan Kuminga having a weird fit who could potentially be traded. But Steph's look good. Draymond Green's look good because now he's out there. Buddy Hield looks like he was the best value free agency signing of last offseason. The Warriors have just been so much fun to watch, but I'm a little hesitant to put them a tier above right now, just because I still think they lack that second scoring option to Steph when it matters the most in April, May, and June. Houston, man, I think they could definitely be a playoff team right now. I may end up dropping them a tier, but they've been a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense, and that's with Fred VanVleet not shooting the ball well. Same with Jalen Green, same with Jabari Smith Jr. and Dylan Brooks. They have not been shooting the ball well, but they're still a top 10 offense in this league. And I think Ime Udoka is a great coach. They have the talent and the assets to make a move over the course of the year. I don't know how many teams I'm going to put in this playoff tier in the Western Conference for now, but for this moment, I'm going to put Houston here because I think they've impressed me a ton, and I think they're going to get better over the course of the season. When Amen Thompson gets more runtime, they can make a trade. I think Reed Shepard's going to be better over the course of the year, and same with Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun, because at least in the month of March, Jalen Green's going to be pretty good. Indiana, I'm going to throw in the playoff tier as well. They have not looked great to start off the year, but the Eastern Conference is wide open. Tyrese Haliburton has not looked himself, and he's got to play better, right, throughout the course of the season. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith have been a little disappointing as well. They're down 2 centers because James Wiseman and Isaiah Jackson are out for the year, so maybe they're going to be a team that makes a trade as well. But I like what I've seen from Benedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker a ton so far, so I think they're going to be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference because the East is going to be definitely less competitive than the West. The Clippers, I think, are going to get ready to learn play in tournament, buddy. They don't own their first round pick. It's going to OKC, so they have no incentive to bottom out. And they've been very competitive and have been surprising me without Kawhi Leonard. Norman Powell has really taken a step with the increase in volume now that Paul George is in Philly and that Kawhi Leonard is hurt. James Harden hasn't been efficient so far as the number one, but he's getting his teammates involved. Ivica Zubac looks really good now that he's catching his balls inside the paint. Chris Dunn looks like a really good pickup. And even with Terrence Mann being disappointing, I think the Clippers are going to be a competitive fringe playing tournament team all year long. Man, the Lakers got off to a great start with some impressive wins as well against like the Sacramento Kings, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Phoenix Suns, but they have not been good since. They got blown out by the Detroit Pistons, and Anthony Davis is dealing with plantar fasciitis, which is something you don't want to linger all year long. Max Christie's been disappointing. D'Angelo Russell is driving JJ Redick crazy. They can't defend right now. I think the Lakers are going to be a playing tournament team. I'm sure after the first week, people are ready to put them in conference finals or playoffs, but I think this team needs to make a trade, and until we see that, I don't know if I could put them any higher. The Western Conference is so competitive, and I don't know what team is going to give them a good player for D'Angelo Russell unless they attach one of their future first-round picks. They already declined next year's option on Jalen Hood-Schifino, so he doesn't have much trade value right now. It's going to be an adjustment period for the Lakers all year long, but they're relying a ton on a almost 40-year-old LeBron James, so I think they're going to be in the play-in tournament right now. Memphis looks really good also. I think it was going to be a feeling out period for them all year long now that Ja was fully back healthy, and he has not been as much score first as he's been in the past. He's playmaking well. It looks like they hit on another second-round pick in Jalen Wells. He has looked great to start off the year. They hit on Vince Williams in 2022, G.G. Jackson in 2023, now Jalen Wells in 24. Zach Edey looks like a positive player for them, and this is with Marcus Smart basically giving them nothing. So Scottie Pippen's doing well. Jay Huff, like the Grizzlies find the diamonds in the rough. I think they're going to be a playoff team this year, or at least the favorite to make it out of the play-in tournament when that time comes, because they're a top 10 defense and top 10 offense, and I think they're only going to get better throughout the course of the year when Bane, Triple J, Marcus Smart are all fully healthy, and we get to see this deep Grizzlies squad at full strength. Man, I don't really have much confidence in the Miami Heat this year. I still think they're going to be a play-in tournament team. Maybe they make the playoffs because the East is so wide open, and I know I'm going to drop some of these teams down a tier, and I'm going to do that right after this because I feel like I have a good vibe on who I'm going to drop. But the Heat have shown no urgency. Bam Adebayo has had a rough start. Same with Terry Rozier and Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic. Tyler Hero has been carrying this offense on that end of the floor, but I feel like Jimmy Butler hasn't looked locked in, and I'm not going to doubt Eric Spoelstra whatsoever. I still think they eventually make the playoffs as like an 8 seed or a 7 seed, but right now I don't have confidence to say that they are definitely making the playoffs because who knows how this team is going to go all year long. So I'm going to drop the Detroit Pistons to capture the flag. I don't think they make the play-in tournament from what I've seen, and the Chicago Bulls I'm going to drop as well because the worst case scenario, like I said, is they end up making the play-in tournament, losing the first leg of it, get the 11th pick, and that goes to San Antonio. They can't have that. I think they're going to trade some of their veterans, even though I think they're a better team right now than Charlotte and potentially Atlanta. But when they move on from some of their veterans, I think they'll capture the flag. Oh my God, Milwaukee, man. This team has been a disaster to start off the year. They just beat the Utah Jazz, but the Jazz have been the worst team in the league, and they didn't even look that convincing in the first half. They played much better in the second half. It looks like Andre Jackson to the starting five is going to be the better move because Gary Trent Jr. can't hit a shot all year long, and Jackson helps out their defense. They're going to be getting Chris Middleton back. I don't know how this team doesn't make the playoffs, right? They have Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton. This team should not miss the playoffs whatsoever. So I'm going to put them here, but man, I am sounding the alarm a little bit on this team. I am not super confident that they are going to be the 6 seed or the 5 seed. They may end up as the 7 seed in the play-in tournament, which is going to be a disappointing year, especially if you have to go up against Boston in round number 1, because that's a first-round exit, and who knows how Giannis is going to feel after that. I do think they could beat Cleveland in a playoff series. Like, they played well against Cleveland, even though they lost both those games, one of them without Giannis. So I'm not counting them out yet just because they have Giannis Antetokounmpo. I just thought maybe preseason, you're convinced that they can maybe make the conference finals, but right now they got to figure a lot of things out. So I'm just going to put them in the playoff tier, but there's, I think, a better chance they're like a 7th or an 8th seed than they are like a 2 or a 3 seed. So I'm going to throw them there. Minnesota's trying to figure out some things right now. Anthony Edwards has turned into one of the better 3-point shooters in the league. This is with Dante DiVincenzo struggling to start off the year. I think Julius Randle is trying to fill out his role, but I think he's exceeding my expectations so far to start off the year. Do I like them to make the conference finals? I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to add like 1 or 2 teams to the Western Conference, like tier 2 here. But for now, I'm going to throw Minnesota in tier number 3. They got to figure some things out. Jaden McDaniels, DiVincenzo, like I mentioned, Mike Conley have been somewhat disappointing offensively. So I think this team is going to look a lot better in March than they do right now. Who would have thought that Brooklyn was going to be a top 15 team in the NBA throughout the first 3 weeks of the year, because they have been playing like one. In a wide open Eastern Conference, they can make the playoffs. But I think that would just be a disaster of a season for them, because that is what you don't want to somehow make the playoffs playoffs to get bounced in round number 1. No, you want to feel it out, see what you got in your young guys going forward, like Jalen Wilson. I know he's not been playing well, but Noah Clowney, Daron Sharp, and Tariq Whitehead. And as much as Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson, and Finney Smith have been fun veterans for you, that's a good thing right now, but you want to trade those guys at the deadline. So guys that could have been potentially not gone for a first round pick, or were going to be buyout candidates, could now net them first round picks at the deadline. And I'm sure a lot of teams are going to be calling them for Cam Johnson, Schroeder, and Finney Smith. And you're going to move those guys, get hopefully more draft capital, or maybe a young player going forward, and then you got to get a top 5 pick in this draft, because if you don't, I don't think there's any point in this season if you're just going to try to be the 9th or the 10th seed. You get bounced in either the play-in tournament or round 1, and you miss out on a franchise-altering prospect. So I still believe that they're going to end up as one of the worst teams in the East, but this start has definitely been surprising, and it's proving me wrong. Okay, so for the Pelicans, this one is tough. This one is tough. They're either going to be get ready to learn play-in tournament, buddy, or capture the flag. And it's not their fault, because everybody on this team has been hurt this year. DeJounte Murray's been hurt. CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jordan Hawkins, Zion Williamson have all had some type of injury so far this year. They're relying on Brandon Boston, Jose Alvarado, Javonte Green to play 30 plus minutes a night, and they already had center depth issues. It's Daniel Tice and Yves Missi, who Yves has been playing well throughout the start of the year, but you're relying too much on a rookie center. I think this, like, you own your first round pick in New Orleans, you may as well just be last year's Grizzlies team and recoup an asset in the offseason, maybe something better than Zach Edey, because this will be a better draft class than 2024. Who knows? Maybe the ping pong balls go your way like they did in 2019, and you could somehow add Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper to this team, and then you figure out a Brandon Ingram trade at the deadline. So I'm going to throw them in play-in tournament, but with all these injuries, there's a chance that they end up as one of the worst teams in the West, just because the West is so competitive, and the whole team is hurt right now. Man, the New York Knicks. I knew it was going to take some time for this team to gel together. I've said multiple times after the Cat trade that I wouldn't have been surprised if they were like 12-10 to start off the year, and it looks like we're on that track right now. They had a difficult schedule to start off the year. It's getting easier. Their starting 5 has played well. Funny enough, I would say the most disappointing player out of their top 5 has been Jalen Brunson. The stats look good on paper, but he's definitely trying to figure out life without Isaiah Hartenstein in his screen setting. I don't think he's capitalizing on what Karl-Anthony Towns can do as a floor spacer for this offense. So I think it's going to get better all year long. I think what I said about Minnesota is going to apply to New York, that they're going to look so much better in March than they do currently. They should get a little bit healthier. Their bench isn't great. They have looked great offensively, though, as a whole. Defense, though, surprisingly under Tibbs, has not been good. I'm going to have to figure out what Eastern Conference team I like the most to bump up a tier, but for now, I'm just going to throw the Knicks in the playoff tier. Next up, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder. I believe we'll see them in June with the Boston Celtics. They haven't looked great offensively so far, but they've been a top 10 defense. Alex Caruso isn't shooting the ball well. He's going to figure that out. Shea could be much better offensively. He's going to figure that out. They have a deep roster. This is all without Isaiah Hartenstein. They can make a trade or two if needed by the deadline. I just still think that it's going to be Boston and OKC in the finals, like what I said in the preseason. And for now, maybe Denver gets their number or Dallas gets their number in the playoffs, but I like OKC to make it out of the West still, so I'm going to see them in June with Boston. Orlando was tough because they looked like the clear number 3 team in the East after Boston and Cleveland before the Paolo injury, and Paolo was playing so well, but he's going to miss like 1 to 2 months, and who knows where they're going to be without him, because they haven't looked the best with Paolo being hurt, and KCP needs to play better. I think Suggs has looked good. Franz has looked fine this year, but they should still get a decent amount of games from Paolo Banchero this season, and the East is going to be wide open. They're not going to be out of it when he comes back, so maybe they're going to be a team that I throw in the conference finals with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh my God, Philadelphia has been maybe the least appealing team to watch this year, maybe outside the Utah Jazz, just because Maxey was trying the best he could to carry this team without Paul George and Joel Embiid. Nobody else was stepping up offensively because Caleb Martin and Kelly Oubre and Andre Drummond have been kind of disappointing offensively for them. And then Maxey gets hurt right as Paul George gets back. Embiid has already been suspended, so there's the off-the-court things. And it looks like he's coming back against the Knicks in the first game of the play-in tournament, but I can't really count on Paul George and Embiid's health all year long. I think they may be in line to be the play-in tournament team. The only thing is, like, they've been off to a terrible start, and they're just basically 2 games out of a top 6 seed. So we have a lot of games to play, and I know Maxey may miss a month because hamstring injuries can linger, but I would just be so shocked if this team does not make it out of the play-in tournament. So if I were to say, I still think it's like Miami and Philly that makes it out of the play-in tournament over Atlanta and Charlotte, but I think Milwaukee, and you never know with Orlando and Paolo, could be the other teams that end up as the 7th seed, and maybe Philly with PG and Embiid can keep this team alive without Tyrese Maxey. Phoenix looks so good as well, man. The Western Conference is so different from the Eastern Conference right now because I think Phoenix has looked better than Denver, just as good, if not better, than Golden State as a whole, better than Minnesota and Memphis. They've been borderline top 10 defense, top 10 offense, and this is with Devin Booker, I think, having a slow start this year. Kevin Durant is playing like an MVP. Ryan Dunn is giving them great minutes as a rookie, and Tyus Jones looks like a phenomenal pickup. Yusuf Nurkic has been bad overall. He's looked a little bit better, especially against Miami, and hopefully he gets better throughout the course of the year. They're definitely going to be in contention to bump up a tier. Portland, yeah, we're capturing the flag at this point, which maybe is disappointing for them, but I think we all expected them to be the last seed in the Western Conference. Scoot Henderson off to maybe not the best start in the world. He's coming off the bench. I don't love Chauncey Billups as a head coach for this team throughout the course of the year. They just want to hopefully trade Jeremy Grant at one point and DeAndre Ayton. I don't even know if that's going to happen. So they're going to be, I think, a competitive in some type of way 15th seed, but probably finish as the 15th or 14th seed. The Sacramento Kings have been phenomenal as well. I'm really going to have to bump some teams out of the playoffs here in the Western Conference because they've looked so much fun offensively and defensively. And that's with Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox having slow starts to the year as well. DeMar DeRozan looks like a great pickup already. Sabonis is looking like he did last year. And we're still going to see Devin Carter on this team, who I think is going to be a winning role player for this squad. So I still like the Kings to make the playoffs. I mean, one of these teams is probably going to be in the play-in tournament. San Antonio, as much as I think they could be in the play-in tournament, I still think they're going to capture the flag at the end of the year. What's going on with Wemby? Why is Wemby taking all these threes? He's not inside as much as he should be. And I feel like they are not utilizing him as they should. And maybe the Spurs are just scared of Wemby suffering an injury if he's in the paint too much, like something freak can happen there. But they are not utilizing him properly right now. I still think Chris Paul, who's playing well, is going to get traded after the deadline. Jeremy Shohan has been hurt for a little bit, and I think the West is just too competitive for them to make the play-in. The Raptors are going to be capturing the flag as well, but honestly, this is going as perfect as you'd want as a Raptors fan this year because RJ Barrett has looked good. Grady Dick is taking a step this year. You're getting good play out of Ochai Agbaji or Davion Mitchell, who could either be role players for this team when they're eventually good, or you could flip for something at the deadline. Jakob Poeltl is getting that trade up, and Scotty Barnes and Emmanuel Quickley have been hurt so far, but you're seeing the young core take steps around Scotty Barnes, which is great. And when Scotty comes back, this is going to be somewhat of a fun team to watch in the Eastern Conference. I just don't think they make the play-in, and they shouldn't want to because this is the year where you can get another great piece to your future if it's Ace Bailey or Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper, and you can honestly be a playoff team because of how wide open the East is in 2026. Yeah, Utah is also going to be capturing the flag. It's a shame that Larry Marketing can't get traded this year because he signed that extension too late in the offseason, because this would have been the perfect scenario for Marketing to get traded. He was already hurt to bang up the year. He did just come back healthy, but Keontae George has been inefficient. Sexton has been disappointing to my expectations for him. Jordan Clarkson hasn't been as efficient. John Collins hasn't been great. So this team, I mean, in a loaded Western Conference, I just don't think is going to sniff the play-in tournament, and they were the last team to pick up a win this year. And Washington, to no surprise, is also going to be capturing the flag this year because they are rebuilding. They're one of the worst teams on paper, but I actually think they've been entertaining to watch. I like what I've been seeing out of the rookies. Alex Sarr on the defensive end, Bub Carrington on the offensive end, Keyshawn George, honestly, with his growth spurt, and he's really tall now, and he could be kind of utilized as someone that could play multiple positions. Bilal Coulibaly is taking a step, but I do think they're going to try to trade some of their veterans like Brogdon, Valanciunas, and maybe Kyle Kuzma at the deadline. All right, so this is what I'm going to decide on. I like my capture the flag tier. Kevin Durant playing tournament. I think the best team in this tier is going to be the Houston Rockets, but I do think like Memphis, Minnesota, Sacramento are just going to edge out Houston this year because of their experience. Unless Houston makes a trade, then I think they could make the playoffs. I think the Lakers are going to miss out on it unless they get some type of crazy value for D'Lo and some future first and some additional money. I don't think the Clippers make the playoffs, and the Pelicans, with all their injuries and a tough West, I don't think they make it. So this is the 8 I'm going to go with. OKC, Dallas, Phoenix, Golden State, Denver, Sacramento, Minnesota, and Memphis. And in the East, it's going to be Boston, Cleveland. Still trying to figure out who I like between the Knicks, Magic, and Pacers, but we're not really going to fully know until the Knicks figure out this team and until we see Paolo back in Orlando, and who knows with Philadelphia. But I do think in some way, shape, or form, that is still going to be the top 8. Miami's a wild card. Who knows with them? I mean, Milwaukee could definitely be a wild card, but I still can't see Milwaukee losing out on a playoff spot to Charlotte or Atlanta throughout the course of an 82-game season. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know if you did by dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you think I got right or wrong down below. Make sure you're subscribed if you are not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.